So, good afternoon. My name's Steve Garrett. I'm a M&D, recently been an M&D carer for a little over a year, and so I'm going to talk about our family's experience with motor neuron disease. The lady on my left is my wife Judy, who was diagnosed in February of 2021 and died in January of this year. The guy on the right is me, and these photos were taken during a family photo shoot, which I'll tell you about later. I'm very grateful to have this opportunity to speak to you, to share our family's experience. So the key messages I like to share today are living with motor neuron disease is a very fast-paced family journey from diagnosis to death. It's crowded with interactions, growing impediments and administration. And as well as that, there's a real need to make time count, to use the saying of M&D Scotland, motto of M&D Scotland. So any research must obviously be mindful of all these other factors. And I'm going to go through some of these factors in a little bit more detail. First of all, about me. I'm bringing to this my experience as a scientist. I'm a PhD scientist. I've had a 30-year career in business, including involvement in several leadership teams of very large businesses, and also not-for-profit and charity board membership and presidency. As I said, I've also been an M&D carer, and I'm currently a full-time musician. The overarching emotion and attitude I try to bring to this is actually gratitude. We had tremendous proactive support from NHS, both the GP surgery, the hospital, ARI in Aberdeen, and services, and Aberdeenshire Council. M&D Scotland helped us a lot through it, and our communities were tremendous. So one of the messages I'd like you to bear in mind as well as I go through this is our experience is probably about as good as it gets. And if there were other impediments or issues people were dealing with their lives, such as housing, health issues, a working spouse, whatever, then you can just compound that and layer that on top of what I'm going to describe. So I'm pleased to talk today to give a little bit back to M&D Scotland, and I've also been helping with their housing report, No Time to Lose, which was released recently. I've helped with peer review of research proposals, not from a scientific perspective, but from the perspective of a family, and helped with the peer review of questionnaires, and also been involved in fundraising. We set up a Just Giving page in Judy's name, and one thing, as I mentioned, our communities have been amazing, and one thing that, completely unbeknownst to me, popped up was some postbox toppers in her memory to raise funds for M&D Scotland through the Just Giving page. In particular, Judy was a yoga teacher and worked at the library. She loved reading to the kids, and somebody I didn't even know in her memory made these amazing knitted postbox toppers to symbolise her reading to the kids, and Mr. Men, Peter Rabbit, and Harry Potter as an example of the books that she loved to read. So incredibly moving support from the community, which then raised many hundreds of pounds for M&D Scotland as part of our overall fundraising effort. So I mentioned that our year had, 11 months since diagnosis, and a little bit before that getting to a diagnosis, so maybe 12, 13 months in total, was crowded with over 100 different interactions with more than 40 different people. And here they are. And I've highlighted at the top some of the key folks, such as the GP, the neurology specialist, the M&D nurse who coordinated so much. And I've also highlighted the occupational therapist from the council, who was extremely proactive in getting adaptations to the house, handrails, stairs, and the wet room adaptation, and getting us equipment, frankly, before we were ready for it, which was a little bit emotional accepting some of this when we weren't quite ready, but it meant that when we needed it, it was all there. So thanks very much to Margaret Roberts for that. So you can see all the other things, and I'm sure I've missed some out, but these are many of the interactions we had to, or we benefited from, I should say, over that time. And as well as meeting with people to get stuff done, there was also a lot of administration and other projects to do, sort of paperwork stuff. So for the cars, you need to tell the DVLA, you need to tell the insurance. M&D Scotland helped with getting a blue badge. Obviously, I spent a lot of time just communicating with people, hundreds of people, friends and family around the world, what was going on. Financial, power of attorney, planning, pensions, and Judy retired, obviously associated with the diagnosis. She was probably going to anyway around this time, but that came together, so that was another big thing. That in itself is a big life event for people. Voice banking, fantastic technology from Speak Unique. So I'm a musician, so I had a lot of fun with the recording. Grant forms for the wet room adaptation. Again, thank you M&D Scotland for the grant for that, and My Name's Doddy for that, as well as council helping with that payment. And then project management for the work scheduling for the wet room adaptation, and then just the physical stuff of moving all the furniture around. Thankfully, I have two sons who are adults and fitter and stronger and taller than I am, so we could do the heavy lifting together. So all of this is going on while the family member suffering from M&D is experiencing increasing mobility issues, particularly falls. Judy had several falls starting almost immediately after diagnosis. And what comes with falls is obviously other injuries and a lot of loss of confidence. So that was a big deal. Speech fades away, cognition. Clearly, one of the earliest signs we recognised were losing, well before diagnosis, was losing some speech, getting a bit cloudy on cognition, and ability to walk was going. This had a big impact on her mental health as well. Thankfully, our GP was on top of that with her. And then choking and breathing was very distressing, and of course that increased as well. In fairness, we did have a good first few months, but then all of these ramped up. So what goes with the diagnosis is a clock that starts ticking. Is very clear. For example, the MND Association down in England and Wales and Northern Ireland has an extremely good infographic that really clarifies simply to people that we don't have much time and a third of people are gone within a year. So it's really important to make the most of the time you do have with the family. We had trips across the UK to see friends and family and make memories, visiting some of Judy's childhood haunts. We had endless visits to the house from our friends. I never want to make another cup of tea again, and I put on several pounds weight due to all the cake that came in. And then we wanted to get out and about to some sporting events. For example, Judy loved horses, so we'd go to racehorsing events. But during this, again, because of the increasing impediments, even simple things like going out for a meal during this year went from a pleasure into, frankly, a very significant risk for her choking and some, pretty serious incidents, for example, when we're on holiday with friends. And even then, on top of all this, thinking about more forms and potential side effects from drug trials and research, I could probably feel a bit much, and certainly for me it did. And that's me speaking as a geeky scientist without any other challenges in our life. So it is challenging, I think, to think about planning research, taking these into account. So hopefully you've got a sense of our fast-paced family journey from diagnosis to death that's been crowded with interactions, impediments and admin, Hopefully you can see the need to make time count with the family and friends, and the need for research to be mindful of this. Hopefully you can see also that I'm very grateful for the support we've had. And again, think about people who have other challenges in their life on top of this, or if the support wasn't proactive, or there's a long list for other people where things could be a lot more difficult. And I would just, as a musician, I express my emotions and thoughts through music and song. So I'd just like to leave you with words from Kareem Polwart and Dave Milligan, who released a beautiful album that includes a song called The Path That Winds Before Us, which for me really stresses not just making time count, but when you're dealing with MND, every breath and every step counts. Thank you very much.